Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al, the week 11 head-to-head battle. Myself against Mike Leone from EstablishTheRun.com. The man behind the projections, the spreadsheet wizard himself, has stepped back into the cage. We played last year, Mike, but I don't remember if it was me that won or you that won. So we're going to have to figure that out somewhere down the road. Somebody's going to have to go back through the YouTube archives and find out who won that. It was probably him. So I need to exact some revenge inside of the squared circle this afternoon. Thank you guys for being here. If you don't know what this content is, if you're new to the show, if you play a head-to-head on DraftKings, you are likely going to have some overlap, especially in a week like last week where there was very clear running back value. There was no uniqueness to be had at running back. You were going to play Dearness Johnson. You were probably playing Ingram, and you probably had James Conner. So you were playing a 6v6 just from jump. There was a massive overlap last week. But in terms of these head-to-heads, we're playing against one another for charity, a predetermined amount by the guest every week. But there can't be any overlap. We're going to draft this with a second-round reversal. First and 1, second and 2. Mike has chosen to pick second. I'm going to pick first in this one. We're playing for $300 donated to charity. We'll talk to you about those two charities in just a second. But thank you all for being here. Drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel. Ring the notifications bell. Leave me a reply down below. Let me know who you think drafted the better lineup, because the mistake that people make is it's not about picking the optimal lineup in the cage. It's about inflicting as much pain as you can on their opponent for the main slate on Sunday. So, let's go!
He's a legend.
Hey, Mike, how's it going, man?
It's going well. I am ready to inflict some pain upon you, Smiz.
That does not sound very convincing.
I think I won last time. I remember
you probably did.
Chat made me like a huge underdog. So I was, a little tilted at chat. So they better, I don't want any Smiz bias in the chat this week when they're setting the line.
People usually hate my lineup is basically what happens. Nobody ever likes my lineup, but I've been running pretty good in the cage this year after those first couple weeks when I could not pick a starting quarterback that had more than 10 fantasy points. I could not get a quarterback to get double-digit fantasy points at all. I was running really, really poorly early in the cage. But why don't you tell everybody where they can find you on social media and where they can find your content this year?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at 2hats1mike, and also all my work's over at Establish the Run. I'm the director of analytics there. So I'm the guy behind the scenes powering all of our projections work, but also doing some shows there. Love doing Establish the Millie on Saturdays with Drew Dinkmeyer. It's our show looking at tournaments for DFS for the week, FanDuel and DraftKings. So yeah, that's my favorite piece of content to do each year and each week.
Fantastic. As he mentioned, EstablishTheRun.com. The basketball basketball season is in full swing. There's a link down below, smizzle.tv/ETR. If you guys wanted to go check out what they have. They are killing it in terms of the player props. If there is sports betting available in your state, they are doing a great job in their Discord with that, as well as if you just play daily fantasy, the in-season package, use the link down below in the pinned comment to check it out. As I said, we're playing for charity, and you have chosen Mike to play for Charity Water, the Welly Maker. Here's that $300. Drew Dinkmeyer's already raised $120,000, including the matches that him and others have done, doing a great job. The 5th year that he's done that. Charity Water, providing clean water to people all over the globe who do not have access to clean water, something that we take very much for granted here in America. And I, as always, will be playing for No Kid Hungry. We have raised as a community over $20,000. I am matching at every $5,000 mark. And after we had that big win earlier in the season, that big week early in the season, I am double matching. So I double matched at 15, I double matched at 20, and I have another double match coming up at 25,000. And if we can raise 25,000 as a community, I will be adding, what is that? Carry the 40,000 of my own, making $65,000 for No Kid Hungry. So two very great causes. And by the way, get in the Smith Gang Listener League. 3,200 seats. Let's fill it this week and make sure that we get there. I'm going to pick first here. Man, there's so many good picks. There's some value plays. There's ways that I can go. I know where I want to go to inflict a little pain later. But I'm not going there yet. Oof, not going there yet. I don't know if this is going to be optimal. but I like this play a lot this week, and it's A.J. Dillon, the #1 player for me at 6,200. Loads of volume coming to him in a very high-powered offense. Minnesota, middling defense. They're not soft, but they're not going to kill me. They're not the Buccaneers run defense. A.J. Dillon, a monstrous man with tremendous thighs, and I know that ETR has their own model in terms of running backs that have large thighs and calves. So I'm going to take A.J. Dillon, as I project that if I didn't, you would be taking him at the next 2 picks. So I'm going to take him off the board here, lock in some running back volume and value, and we're going to move on to you.
I know this is where I'm like out leveling myself. Like, you know, who's the best value? Who is Smiz going to take? So it's difficult. I'm going to stick at running back. I don't want you to get both of the value running backs I want. So I'm going to go James Conner at similar price tag with Chase Edmonds remaining out. Good match against Seattle, who A.J. Dillon just absolutely demolished. So I'll take James Conner with my first pick. And I kind of thought you were going to take CMC, you know, so
you could do that.
But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go wide receiver value. The guy who projects well every week and
every week. I know exactly where you're going.
Mr. T. Higgins at 5,400.
He is strong. Now, can you talk to me a little bit about T. Higgins? Because I think that he's been good and he's been unlucky, right? Like, he's gotten a tremendous amount of volume. He's getting good usage inside the red zone and targets in the end zone, getting a steady floor of targets in a high-powered pass-first offense, especially as it has trended. Early in the season, they were very run-heavy. You do a great chart, or you publish a great chart every week. It's a neutral situation game script, how much teams pass over the league expected average.
Yeah, and the Bengals started off the year a little bit conservative, you would say, you know, bringing Burrow along from the knee injury, but the past several weeks, I think the last 4 weeks in that chart, the pass rate over expectation, they're top 5. They've been #1 in the red zone all season long. So yeah, I think T. Higgins, his efficiency, he has run bad. He's only at 7.6 yards per target. The touchdowns only at 2, but he's too talented. There's too many opportunities there. You know, it's not like the Robbie Anderson play, who I did ride Robbie Anderson for a while, but
into the ground,
just straight until he crashed. But like that play, there were more question marks, I think, over his talent, over the support system around him, you know, with the quarterback play there. Whereas T. Higgins, like, we've got Burrow, you know, we've got a pretty steady passing game. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how much the field plays him this week, if they give up on him, but I kind of doubt that'll happen. I think he's just, you know, too clear of a value in that mid-tier. You know, you can build so many different types of lineups around him.
Yeah, he's just really good. And it's like, I feel like I've written him up, not every week, but like a whole lot of them in Best Buys this year. I feel like he's like the main guy that I just keep writing up week after week after week after week. And like, he just keeps producing. So like, and he hasn't had a blow up week. He's done it without touchdowns. He's getting you there on volume. It's like, he hasn't had a spike week, but like, it seems like it could be coming.
Yeah. One long touchdown and those 12-point weeks become, you know, 20, 24-point weeks.
Yeah. And if we know one thing, it's that the Cincinnati Bengals never throw long touchdowns this year. It's not something that they do at all, or literally every single week. I am going to take Christian McCaffrey here with my next pick. How good is Christian McCaffrey?
I mean, even on limited snaps last week, he should have scored like 50 fantasy points. It was nuts.
He got tackled on the 1 2 times.
And on like longish plays too. It's not like he got like stuffed on a short goal, you know, plays that very easily could have been touchdowns. I think he could have had 3 touchdowns. He didn't get the bonus after having 90 yards rushing in the first half because it was just such a blowout that they, you know, took it easy on him in the second half. So that was pretty nuts. And I was a little shaky on McCaffrey. Thankfully, Levitan got me on him in tournaments, and it kind of sucks the way it turned out. The 26 fantasy points with all the cheap running backs going off didn't really matter, but
yeah,
it could have legitimately could have been a 50 fantasy point game, which would have broken the slate.
He was the headliner last week on my 5 players under 5%. That's how stupid last week was going into the week, because there was just so many other great plays that were popping more in a points per dollar standpoint. And yeah, a lot of things went wrong for him. Did not score a touchdown, fell on the 1 twice, did not get he has not had a bonus rushing or receiving at once this year. Now he gets Washington's defense, and they're coming off of their Super Bowl last week when they beat the Buccaneers. This is a great spot for Christian McCaffrey to get loose against his former coach. I'm going to plug in McCaffrey. I'll find enough value elsewhere. I got a defense I can plug. There's always wide receiver value on DraftKings. I like the start. I'm piling up probably. I think there's a very realistic chance that I'm going to get 50 touches out of those two running backs.
Yeah, I think so. This is where my, I'm going to game theory this a little bit here. Smith, trying to figure out,
I like it.
What you're going to do later on. Oh, man. I'm going to take, oh man. Actually, no, I'm not going to Galaxy Brandon. I'm just going to lock it in just in case. I'm going to take Davante Adams, prevent you from going double stud. I don't know if you would have been able to fit that or not. That's where I was thinking of game theory and was waiting on Davante Adams. But I just think there's going to be a little bit of a gap at wide receiver this week. And, Aaron Jones out. Plus, I leverage against your AJ Dillon, which, maybe isn't optimal, but as we said, we're in for the max infliction of pain.
Yeah. Every touchdown scored in Green Bay, like both of us, what's going to be the play if like MVS scores a touchdown this week, or like Alan Lazard? Like, do we both just like flip off our TV and double bird it? Or like, is it more relief? It wasn't the other guy.
Yeah, no, we're going to be ticked off.
So big touchdown upside for us there. And we know that offense basically has centered around two guys, whether it was Aaron Jones or Davante Adams. Whoever's the running back and Davante Adams score the majority of the touchdowns in those situations. I need to find me a wide receiver. And it's weird. I mean, you took T. Higgins, rightfully so. Great play. But like, what is it about DraftKings this year that like all the values are between 5,000 and 6,500 literally every week?
They refuse to give us anything sub 5K. It's been really, like, last week was nuts. I played too much. Speaking of MVS, someone who played too much MVS last week, but it was like, there were like three guys you could play. And I was like, well, MVS is the one that's not going to be played. Gallup was the guy last week, who might be the guy this week too, just because that game projects to be such a shootout. And he's, if you don't know what to do there, it's like, oh, just give me the guy in the Dallas KC game. But
see, I'm a big double stack guy. I know that you mix in single stacks. Like with my 150 in the Millionaire Maker, I'm solely double stack. So like that will get me, if I play Aaron Rodgers, will get me some exposure to somebody like MVS, because most of those stacks are going to have Davante Adams with them. But Mike plays mostly, for those of my viewers who don't know or haven't watched his show, whether it was the Tilt Space with the boys, or whether you haven't watched the ETR stuff, or you don't sub to ETR and he's on the behind the paywall stuff there, Wake and Rake on Sunday mornings and everything else. Mike central play is around like high stakes, small field tournaments. And he does a lot of work on trying to figure out where is everybody going to be and what's the most reasonable route that I can take to get off of that main road, because that'll make all the difference if his route wins. And he took down the Thunderdome a couple of weeks ago. I'm not going to get into what happened last week.
Tilt.
Yeah, the tilt was
real. I just love the competitiveness of the high stakes small field tournaments. And when you're playing small field tournaments, like, you can you're going to get a sweat a couple times throughout the year just off.
And it's perfect for that show. It's perfect for the
odds.
Tilt Space show, because like if you just backload line, you're always going to be live with things that are chasing late, like you guys had with what was it, CD Lamb earlier this year chasing things down. But I digress. All the value seems to be in this range, right? Under here. And like the Jets are really bad. So like Jaylen Waddle has been very good, and he has not really had, outside of the game, like, do games that happen in London count? Like, really, honestly, they don't count. They're never on a main slate. They're always against Jacksonville. Jacksonville is like they're the London Jaguars is what they are. Jaylen Waddle at 5,600, while he's not going to project as well as T. Higgins does on a point per dollar standpoint, he'll come in a point or two behind him in terms of raw projection this week. Another good play at 5,600. Now, why they're deploying him like he's early career Jarvis Landry, that's a topic for a different discussion. Probably has to do with their O-line not being able to protect and him not being able to get deeper down the field into the route tree. But they're doing a great job of funneling a metric ton of targets his way. Leads the league in terms of rookie wide receiver catches. Even though they're low ADOT catches, those low ADOT targets have a DraftKings expectation of 1.65 points per target. So if he's going to get me 7 to 10 targets every single week, if you multiply that by 1.65, that's about where you expect his median projection to be on a week in, week out basis. We also have the big play upside, as we saw him flash against Baltimore last week a little bit. They got him downfield, and obviously the shower narrative with Tua. So
saw this tweet too from Jacob Gibbs on Twitter. Weeks 1 through 5, Waddle 4.7 ADOT, 34 air yards per game. Weeks 6 through 10, 9.4 ADOT, 90.2 air yards per game, which, you know, that's not like an insane, but
baby steps.
You're mixing and matching now, right? Like that's what we saw Mike Williams beginning of the year. Like he had the short ADOT consistency and then like the big play opportunities. That's what you want, is a little bit of each. So I think you're starting to get that with Waddle.
I agree. And like, not to digress and get off down a rabbit hole with Mike Williams, but like, can they let Herbert throw the ball more than 10 yards? That'd be great. Thank you, Los Angeles. Can you guys, like, I don't have a mole in the building at SoFi, but like, if one of my viewers is a mole in the building at SoFi, can you just like whisper to the coach, let Herbert throw the ball further than 10 yards next week? That's all. Just let him throw it a little bit further. That's all I want. Okay, going on to your pick. Enough. It's enough already with me whispering at the Chargers front office and coaching staff.
So my next pick, I feel like there's a couple of running backs that are really close to good values, but they're somewhat contingent on the injury situations. Like that's what's throwing me off. Like I've got basically right now, Darrell Williams, Mark Ingram, DeAndre Swift all look good, but they all could.
They're all good butts.
They're all good butts. And that's where I'm like, I might have been overly reliant on this, as I'm seeing like CEH has a decent chance to play this week against the Cowboys. So maybe you'll keep putting the pressure on at wide receiver here. Let's go Tyreek Hill. We're going to go.
Ooh.
We're going to go expensive here.
For all the zero running back fans back from draft season.
Yeah, we're going to go Tyreek Hill because I think Tyreek Hill has a chance to just, make this a no contest.
He could. Look,
filling out this lineup will be
the breaker of slates himself, and now getting a ton of volume on top of it. And maybe it's possible that Patrick Mahomes doesn't suck. Maybe the narratives were wrong.
The Mahomes stuff was crazy. Well, obviously Mahomes never sucked, but it was kind of crazy that he had like 4 or 5 games this year below yards per attempt that he was at, like 3 times in his entire career before. That was pretty wild. Not that you should have panicked on it, but it was pretty nuts.
I do find it strange that like how many games this year Tyreek Hill does not have a 20-yard reception. Yeah. Like his deployment has certainly changed, and maybe that's because of how the league is defending him. And defending the Chiefs more this year, to just deny them the big plays and make them work for 7, 8, 12 play drives, because that's not how they've operated the last few years. So teams are gambling less against them and just giving them short yardage. But like, if you're telling me that Tyreek Hill has been turned into, and we've seen that from Marquise Brown too, where like Tyreek Hill's getting the down the field throws, they just haven't connected a lot this year on them, right? They're taking those shots. But now he's getting a steady diet of targets at a lower ADOT to boost his floor, and he still has that slate breaking ability that we saw back in week 4 against Philadelphia. Way more of a cash game consideration from like the half-point mark of last year and all of this year than he ever has been at any other point in his career.
You've got so many outs with him, especially in a game that, Kansas City's, I think, either first or second in pass rate of expectation. Dallas is one of the most up-tempo teams in the league. They aren't like super pass heavy relative to script, but they will play up.
They run a lot of plays for sure.
Yeah, they run a lot of plays. So it's the perfect type of game to get Tyreek Hill going. And as you mentioned, with him compiling targets, it's like, okay, if I don't hit some big plays, I could. He had an 18 target game. Like, so you're looking at. I know he had a 4 game against Green Bay a couple of weeks ago, but even that game he had 11 targets. So if I can get to the point with Tyreek Hill where the big plays go from being a necessity to being a bonus, then the chances of him breaking the slate are they're big. I mean, he has a 40-point game and a 51-point game in his arsenal already. Like, we have short memory spans in an NFL season, but that has happened. Just because it was the first 4 weeks doesn't mean it's not in there.
So we've got to find a little value. And I agree with you that it's difficult to find value at wide receiver under 5K. But if I'm going to do it, I'm going to want to find a player that has ability to, to reel in one catch and do it all for me on one play. And Mike, you play video games like I do. Like, we're video game guys. You're a first person shooter guy sometimes, from what I've seen. Yeah.
Yeah.
You ever snipe in video games?
I'm usually getting sniped, but I try.
So, like, what you're telling me is you're the guy that everybody's just sitting there lining up in their sights. And if there's one player in the league that's been lined up constantly all season long, it's been Sorensen on Kansas City. So I'm going to plug in a little bit of Michael Gallup here at 4,200 in the hopes that he can get loose down the field, coming off of two kind of, meh performances when he's been healthy this year, but now back in a situation where they're probably not going to blow out the Chiefs 43-3. This game has the highest total on the week, a very close contested game based on what the spread is. What is it? 2.5 right now. So this is a spot where I think Gallup is going to get a steady floor of targets to help me have a solid floor at this price, but also has that big playability as Dak looks down the field and just lines up Sorensen with Gallup running down the seam at some point out of the slot. So I'm going to plug him in and hope that possibly he gets that one big play, as Sorensen gives up at least one a week. So I have at least a shot at getting that. So good floor with Waddle at wide receiver. Iffy floor, but like if he gets like 7 or 8 points at 4,200, that does not kill you in a head-to-head matchup. But he has the possibility of getting me 25.
Yeah, and if you get Dallas into a script where they have to throw, they will. They're kind of pretty game script dependent, I guess is what you would say. Like, they're a pretty neutral pass rate of expectation. They will do what they have to when the game calls for, and that game gets up and down.
They have the offensive capabilities with that offensive line and their two outstanding running backs. If they get ahead 2 scores, they're just going to pound it constantly. And if they get behind, it's like they have Dak and those 3 pass catchers and nobody can stop them. 4 if you're including Schultz in that as well.
And I have to shout out Sorensen for my Thunderdome victory 2 weeks ago, because I was in second place, and then the person in first had the Kansas City defense, and on 4th and 5, Sorensen gets burned by Alan Lazard for a touchdown. So thank you, Sorensen.
All season long, Sorensen has been the guy that other offensive coordinators and quarterbacks have targeted when they find him in a spot where he's going to be the primary coverage guy.
Okay, so I've backed my team into corner a little bit here. I need to get some value, and there's a quarterback value that I'm going to go with here, Smiz. Gotta go Killer Cam.
The pain pick.
Cam Newton.
If Cam Newton vultures CMC, I'm going to be hot.
Oh yeah. Get ready for it. CMC down to the 1 again. Cam's running it in. So, but yeah, Cam's so hard to project because I've said this a couple times this week and stuff I've done already, but when he can be so inaccurate at times that the offense just can't get going, and there seems like there's no floor there. But at the same time, he's always going to project well because there's no core. I mean, we saw it last week. He played 2 plays. He scored 2 touchdowns. His goal line role is utterly absurd. So I think he has enough playmakers where he doesn't have to necessarily push the ball down the field. DJ Moore, big yak guy, Christian McCaffrey, huge yak guy, that I think there's going to be enough consistency there to get him those goal line opportunities, those rush attempts. So I'm pretty excited for Cam this week, but he is someone who, there are weeks where you're pretty confident that you have someone's projection right. And it's like, whether they score more or less is kind of volatile based on the game. Cam's one of those players where I don't know if I have his projection right. Like maybe he should be projected for 16 points. Maybe he should be projected for 22. I don't know.
There's a lot of variance, right? Because like he's so rushing touchdown dependent. So like if he runs in a touchdown, all of a sudden that's 6 versus like it's a median projection that I don't think you could ever feel happy about, and there's going to be a large spread between his median and his ceiling, as opposed to other quarterbacks that don't have that sort of a spread, I think.
Yeah, but I wanted to take a chance on the upside, and as you said,
and he's 5,100 and also pain.
Pain, yes, also pain.
Yeah. So Newton, Connor, Higgins, Adams, Tyreek Hill, 16-8 remaining, but one of those is a defense, and like, you know, that'll give you a higher average cost per player. Oh, now I don't know what to do. There's a few different routes that I can go here. One of them is really ugly, and I don't like it. I want to do the pain thing. I want to hurt you, like, so bad. And like, I don't know if I can make the lineup work if I go for pain.
This is what I'm doing math right now.
That's what I was like. I'm sitting here contemplating whether or not I can inflict pain, and like, I think I can inflict pain. So I'm just going to inflict pain. Okay? Like, I'm going to make your Sunday so horrible. Because, like, you got to sweat A.J. Dillon over Davante Adams when they get close. You got to worry about Gallup.
Oh.
The real American hero. Steph Diggs at 7,900.
Oh, okay. I thought it was going to be Chase over Higgins, but Diggs is even more twist the knife, messing with my fandom.
I want you wearing that Bills uniform, slamming your son through a flaming picnic table this weekend before the game, and then Steph Diggs gets loose. I have been saying, God, what week was it, chat? I've been saying since around week 4 or 5 that Steph Diggs air yards, targets, and end zone targets predict that he is probably not going to only score 1 touchdown. He's scored 3 in the last 4 weeks. This offense is as good as any in the league. They are heavily dependent on the passing game, though they can run it. They just throw the ball to Steph Diggs. So, like, talking about establishing it, they don't establish the run, they establish the Steph. And I'm hoping that that's going to continue this week, and that he continues to regress and, like, has another big game. 33 points last week against the Jets, 23.9 against Tennessee, 8 targets against Jacksonville, 7 targets against Miami. Big time upside and floor for this spot. I've got Diggs and I've got CMC, and now I got to figure out some stuff, because it's not going to be easy for me to jam in the rest of the guys that I want. But it ain't about optimal, it's about pain, and I want you to hurt every second you're watching that Bills game this weekend.
Yeah, we are both making lineups that it's going to be tough to round out.
It's not optimal, and I don't care.
Speaking of which, there's a play I shouldn't make that I'm going to make. It's like just a little too pricey, but I don't, along the I don't care route. I'm just staring. And I think sometimes in cash, I don't play cash, so it's easy for me to say, well, in cash, you should do this.
Yeah.
Coming from the guy who doesn't play cash. But watching Levitan go through his process, I think sometimes ceiling gets underrated in cash. Like, and floor can sometimes get overrated, because those ceiling guys can just carry you through an entire week. You know, the guy that scores 8 points instead of 14, yeah, that stinks, but that doesn't, necessarily make or break your week. The guy who scores 30 instead of 14, that wins you the week. And Mr. Volatility, I'm staring at a 6K Tyler Lockett with Russ.
Yeah.
And I got to pull the trigger.
There's 2 guys in that range. Russ had the worst day that he could possibly have?
Yeah, I think Lockett wasn't Lockett like top 3 in air yard. He might have been 1 in air yard.
He kept throwing it to him downfield and kept throwing picks. And some of those deep air yard throws were also end zone targets. So like combined, those are like gold. That's the gold mine, right? It's the down the field end zone targets that carry 40, 50 yards, right?
Oh yeah, he had one late too against. He just waited too long to throw the ball. Lockett was literally wide open against cover 2 on the sideline. The funny thing with Lockett though, as I do our floor ceiling projections for ETR, the one thing you see is like past players' standard deviation and volatility is pretty noisy. Like, it doesn't, just because a guy's shown a ceiling or volatility in the past doesn't mean he's gonna be volatile moving forward. Like, generally what's more important is just the guys who score more points have a higher ceiling. Tyler Lockett kind of is an exception to that rule. His game logs for years now are pretty notoriously up and down. I was working on like standard deviation over expected. Like, so if a guy averages 18 fantasy points, they have a certain expected standard deviation.
Mm-hmm.
And then like looking at what a player's actual standard deviation was on their average fantasy points, and Tyler Lockett was by far the highest standard deviation over expected of any player in the league. So, but it's fun to have. And I do have there's a game last year, I think he scored like 50 fantasy points against Arizona. So that's coming for you, Smiz.
Well, there's also the chance that he can score 3 because we've seen him do that a lot. Yes. He's the perfect GPP play, right? Like all the time. Like yes. he could have that 5-point day, but he could also have that 30 to 50-point day. Less so than like a DK Metcalf, who tends to not have those vast peaks and valleys of the last season and a half, even though he's seen them more this year. But obviously some of those come with Geno. Yeah,
and you'd expect his Metcalf ceiling to be even higher than Lockett's. Like a guy that can get downfield, but it's been pretty similar.
You have some very intimidating pass catchers. I will admit, you have some very intimidating pass catchers.
That's what we're trying to do here.
That's what you're trying to do. I don't feel the need to correlate in these spots, you know, like in these head-to-head games. I don't think that it's a super necessary thing, but I'm falling into a correlation play here just because I think he gets enough volume in the passing. And now look, if we had things clear and we don't, because like Ingram against Philly, great, but like if Kamara's back, he's mostly useless. Same thing with Williams versus CEH, as Mike mentioned earlier in the show. We make these lineups on Wednesday, so like you just don't know everything. Like even like Jeff Wilson Jr., if Eli Mitchell's out, becomes a fantastic play, but like he had surgery, they're expecting he might be ready to play, so we can't pull the trigger. Well, I can't pull the trigger. Mike can do whatever he wants. Well, he can't because he doesn't have flex, but I feel like I have to pick somebody that I know is going to play. And like Michael Carter's 5,800, and he's not expensive, and he's gotten so many targets. Now, granted, Joe Flacco tends to throw the ball outside versus to his running backs, but like, who the hell is he going to throw the ball to on the outside? You almost have to throw the ball to Michael Carter. Getting the majority of the carries now. Targets worth way more in terms of expected DraftKings points than our carries, but he has that going for him. Miami's defense has not been ridiculously great. I think that the Jets will score enough points, or at least move the ball enough, that Michael Carter becomes a solid play at 5,800. I did not want to double up here with Gaskin. Obviously, the Jets by far the worst run defense in the league, and when it comes to DraftKings scoring against opposing running backs. But like, I didn't want to double up on Dolphins in a head-to-head match, so I get a little bit of push-pull here with Waddle and Carter, leaving me with a tight end, a quarterback, and a DST for 11,000.
I like it. I have to punt tight end, quite obviously, from the construction of my lineup thus far.
We both do.
And there aren't as many punt tight ends as we see on some other weeks, as far as like pure punt tight ends, I should say. Like some guys like Dan Arnold are starting to creep up, right, to like the 4K range.
And kudos to us, by the way, on early identification of Dan Arnold when everybody else was mocking us 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, all the Pat Fryermuth stands didn't realize Dan Arnold was the play. So, but I got one guy I like, and I'm really tempting fate with like no floor but high ceiling plays, and that's going to continue. But we've seen pretty good target shares from David NJOKU the last few weeks with Odell Beckham, you know, gone and not really playing that much. He's had 12%, 14%, 10% the last 3 weeks for NJOKU. And unlike a lot of tight ends, like AKA his teammate Austin Hooper, he actually can, you know, rack up some air yards here and there. So a good matchup for Cleveland to just pour on a lot of points, hopefully, against Detroit. I'm going to go NJOKU.
I feel like he was he's the guy that looks like the optimal cheap tight end, right? He's the one who pops as the optimal cheap tight end for a type of build like this. You have 7,900 remaining for your 2 spots. God, what can I do here? Like, there's no, like, I've inflicted the pain. There's nothing else that I can do in terms of pain. I just have to like pick players that like might score some fantasy points at this point.
I feel like I do have one more pain pick at my disposal.
You do? That's interesting. I gotta figure out where I'm going here. Because like I can afford something, but it's not going to be like outstanding. I think we both kind of have to punt defense a little bit. All right. Quarterback I don't have to take because you already have one. Tight end you took. So I think I need to concentrate on defenses in this spot.
Yeah, the quarterback pick, that's part of what I was thinking about was how much do I want to wait? Because I really wanted
That's the game theory play. When you lock up quarterback early, like I can wait until the end and just have my choice of a few quarterbacks.
I guess
in a
even
range.
like Tyrod's not terrible if you had to take like the exact same cost as Cam or something.
Yeah, Tyrod is. I hate Texans.
Yeah.
God, let's see. I need a cheap defense, and there's no good ones. There just aren't. Like I'm thinking about taking like the Lions or the Texans in this spot.
Yeah, it's
or
not
like
pretty.
Or like the Jaguars, who knows what the hell they can do. The Lions at least looked good last week. I think it's the Jags at home against San Francisco. I'm going to plug in the Jags D at 2,300 here. That leaves me with enough money to get players that I think project well enough at tight end and at quarterback. There's no real analysis here that I can give you of, hey, Jacksonville is in a great spot because San Francisco. No, like this is horrific. I'm hoping that they just get me like 5, 6, 7 points. And maybe I can luck box an Agnew kick return for a touchdown. Maybe. Like, I don't even know. Like, this sucks. I'm just punting defense to make the rest of the lineup fit. And sometimes that's just what you have to do.
Yeah, this is, yeah, I totally get that. I mean, I'm in a spot now here too, where I can take this safe play / pain play in Myles Gaskin.
Yeah.
And pure punt defense with something really gross. Or I can take the upside gamble on either Darrell or Ingram and have a more reasonable defense. So this is my enigma. And I think all ties need to be broken with the pain category.
Yeah, always try to throw your opponent off the cage. That's usually the best strategy.
So Myles Gaskin is going to be scoring the touchdowns and catching all these check down passes while Jalen Waddle is running free and not being targeted. And Smiz is yelling,
I hate that.
Why aren't you throwing in the ball?
Just throw him the ball. So how bad is Miami's offensive line? I'm not trying to put you on a spot. And I know that Thorne does the O-line stuff, but like they're very, very bad, like the worst in the league, right? If not like bottom 3. Like at best you could argue they're, well, you know, these other two might be a little bit worse or injuries. Like they're a bad offensive line. But like also the Jets are giving up 30% more fantasy points to opposing running backs than the second place team on a per game basis. The Jets are like, I don't want to say historically, but like also they are historically bad. But like we've seen teams last year, like the Jaguars, Houston, last year against running backs that were also historically bad. But like the Jets are that level of bad against the run.
And with Gaskin, and to your point about the O-line rankings, Thorne had Miami 32 coming into the year and had them 32 with his midseason update.
So they're consistent.
They're consistent.
Yes.
But we've seen Gaskin's usage be really good with Malcolm Brown out. You know, we haven't seen as much Ahmed as maybe I was worried about. His carry shares the last 2 weeks, 80%, 64% for Gaskin. And that 64%, I think there were some QB carries in that game, and they're using him in the pass game as a result too. You know, I think like 4 of his last 5 games, maybe 5 of his last 6, he's had a double-digit target share. So he can get it done in a few different ways. I
mean, the run yards, I know that yards per carry doesn't matter all that much, but like it is telling that he's getting the ball, 46 times in the last 3 weeks on the ground, is averaging like 2 yards a carry. It's not great.
We took the over on his rushing yardage prop against Houston.
What was it?
Like 45.
He had 20 carries.
20 for 34.
Not good.
It was so painful. I was like, oh, why couldn't we have found a rush attempts line? We could have banked the rush attempt line. But you know what? And that's the thing with Gaskin. It's going to be a grind, right? It's going to be a grind, but I think it's the right matchup for it.
I mean, look, if he gets the ball 20 times against the Jets, I think I'm going to take over 34 rushing yards.
Yeah, 31, 34, 36 the last 3 weeks on 14, 20, and 12 carries.
Why don't you take your defense and you can finish it off? You have 3 to choose from: Kansas City, Lions, or Texans.
Yeah. Oh, man. I think that these all really suck. I've all this talk about ceiling, and I'm trying to think of the defense that's like least likely to go negative here. And I'm
coming up a blank.
Sure and I don't know who it is, quite frankly. I think I'll take I don't know. Do I have to take one? Can chat pick one for me?
No help. No, one player per hand here. Chat is not allowed to pick your defense.
All right. I'm going to go Lions because right now we have them projected highest up to 3. That's it. That's the
You're going with, okay, so you're going to try and bite some kneecaps with the Detroit Lions D here. I
kind of thought KC might have been a little bit more upside, like home. Dak might have to throw a lot. Tennessee's got, no Henry, running you all over, the whole game. But I don't know, Baker's just been so shaky that I'm going to take the Lions. But that's me acting. Even that is saying way more than I should, which is I had to pick one of the 3. So
yeah, I'm forced. They're making me take one. It's not that you want to take one. They're making you take one. So, like, now I got to pick a crappy tight end. And it comes down to, like, a few guys. Like, Gerald Everett is fine. Like, Swaim, I think, is the right pick here. Just, again, kind of like you just said, Henry's not there. And Houston's really bad. And so, like, he's getting more usage in and around the goal line than he used to. And, like, I hate playing Jeff Swaim because no offense to Jeff Swaim and his entire family, but it's Jeff Swaim. But he's 2,800.
Yeah, but imagine if you're Anthony Ferkser and you're I mean, that's a tough scene right there.
That didn't work out. Yeah, the whole Ferkser family is struggling right now.
The Ferkser best ball shares. Hopefully
they're not doing well.
They're not going well.
Rest in peace, all those Ferkser best ball shares. I'm going to take Jeff Swaim. And that leaves me with 6,300 for a quarterback. And, like, again, none of these this is not where I want to go. I would prefer this week, and it just didn't work out that way because, again, I went for Payne with Diggs instead of picking a smart play at wide receiver where it would let me get up to, like, Lamar or Dak or, somewhere in that range to lock in, like, a really high floor guy. I feel like the best floor play with a possibility of a ceiling in this price range is Derek Carr.
I feel like I see 2 guys here.
I think Derek Carr is the guy in this spot. Yeah. No rushing upside for real. Like, I could just throw caution to the wind and go with Fields, but, like, there's no way. Don't have enough to get up to Russ. Kirk Cousins has been very good this year. Like, he's been legit good this year, but, like, I think this is a spot where I just want to go get Carr at home against Cincinnati at 5,900. I think he's just fine. I'll leave 400 on the board here. Derek Carr, Dillon, McCaffrey, Waddle, Gallup, Diggs, Swaim, Carter, and the Jaguars. You are rolling with Cam Newton, Connor, Gaskin, Higgins, Adams, Hill, NJOKU, Lockett. I'm going to have to dodge a whole bunch of 50-yard air yard throws this week. And the Lions defense. Mike, thank you for being here. I really appreciate you taking time out of your week to do the show and highlight a couple of great charities. So good luck to you, sir. And leave us a reply down below letting us know who you think drafted the better team. And definitely go follow Mike on all his socials and check out the great work that he does over at Establish the Run. Thank you all for being here. Look out for another video right there.
He's a legend.